Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell. I know it's old news, but Age of Mythology has a special God Pack DLC for a fourth Norse major god, Freyr. When we first had Retold drop, I made a video going over the major changes to the game and how they impact it from like a theory crafting and mythological authenticity standpoint, my personal specialties. And I thought it would be a cool idea to do the same for the Freyr DLC. I think it is a fantastic addition to the game. Not that I enjoy paying extra money for content, right? But Age of Mythology is already a pretty complete game, so I personally do not have a problem with them releasing DLCs, assuming that it is not ridiculously overpriced when it is broadly released to the public. You cannot get this DLC now unless you, I think, pre-ordered it or got like the premium edition. Yeah, premium edition. It says it on screen right now. But I'm sure they'll release it eventually, and so long as it's not stupid in terms of its pricing, I'm happy with it, and I'd love to see them do more. So let's go through and see what implications this DLC pack holds. Again, I don't focus whatsoever on balance or competitive, just on authenticity and theory crafting. So before anything else, just the fact that we are getting a fourth major god for a faction is exceptionally good news. This means that they are actively planning on broadening and supporting the existing civilizations and hopefully pushing them further towards authenticity, like we saw in a lot of the base changes that came with Retold. Technologies were renamed, things were replaced, and generally I would say the authenticity of the game from a mythological standpoint went up by a couple of ticks, and that is only a good thing. Now, looking at this Freyr one, I want to go piece by piece through some of the things that it has in store, beginning with the big boy himself, Mr. Man, Freyr. First of all, that art is fantastic. Look at that dude. That's a Pantene commercial head of hair if I've ever seen one. Looking great. I love the art. Focuses on defenses and technology. Interesting pairing. So his god power, we'll get to in a moment. I want to focus on his bonuses and his tech for now. All units plus 10 hit points. Pretty interesting. I think it's somewhat comparable to Bacchanalia on Dionysus. But bonuses, technologies are much cheaper, but take longer to research. Love. Excellent, excellent. Now, I love double-edged sword style changes. A lot of people are like, oh, but it's not a strict upside. I don't want a thing that's going to make it worse in some situations. Well, first of all, you can spin a lot of what seem to be just flat bonuses into downsides in certain situations. The Huns having no houses in AoE 2 is a prime example. And this is just one of those things that is, on average, going to be a pretty substantial benefit, but does force you to adapt your playstyle. I love it. I want to see more stuff like it. A+ from me. Hillfort stuff, plus 10 damage, yay, whatever. Implications-wise, this bonus isn't too interesting. Repairing buildings is free. That is cool. That plays with a fundamental element of the game in a major way that is playstyle determinant. I think that's very cool, and it fits to the defensive playstyle. Gatherers and dwarves can repair buildings. They repair walls 50% faster than normal builders. That, too, is awesome. Again, plays with the fundamental Norse dynamics in a way that is very appropriate. In terms of his major minor god spread, I think he's the only one who can get Ullr, Aegir, and Vidar right now, but maybe they'll broaden that out later. Either way, I'm fine with that. I don't mind it if gods are exclusive, at least at first, and then you can broaden it out. And thank goodness he has Freya. That's the only one that you absolutely mandatorily need. And he has Hela, which I think is interesting because she was locked to Loki before. Let us talk about his god power, Gulin Bursti. From what I understand, this summons a hero unit targeting a specific town center, and this hero boar is tethered to the town center. The further away it moves, the weaker and slower it gets. Now, first of all, there is a major issue with Gullinbursti, which is that the current myth unit, the Battle Boar, I think is already supposed to be representing this. I think the Battle Boar is a little bit silly. It definitely should have been associated with Freyr, and I would have loved it on him, but as is on Bragi, I wish he had something different. And this just kind of reinforces that. As is, I think it's a cool idea. A god power summoning a myth unit to protect a building is cool. I love tethering effects. Things that bind like a unit or a hero or whatever to a specific place or building, etc. to strongly incentivize the player to keep them there without mandatorily forcing them to. Though forcing them to would be interesting too. yeah, I don't know all the details about how this thing actually plays, but I think it is quite cool. And it has a knock aside enemy unit thing, much like the current battle board, so why have both? Yeah, in summary, cool idea. It would have been nice to have this as a proper myth unit rather than a god power, but I think it's rather ingenuitive how they've done this based on the current format that they have to use for major gods. I just wish that we didn't have the battle board as well, because it feels like a silly double up to keep. Next, Ullr. He is the Norse god of archery, if I'm going to be very oversimplistic about it. He's also associated with skiing, so good on them actually getting him on skis. That's fantastic. Really like the art. The outfit is actually quite good too, from what I understand about Norse clothing. Okay, so they have him as god of oaths in archery. Yeah, I guess that's fair. He is defensive, which is weird considering he is about archery. But I guess the Norse don't really have an archer unit, so yeah, that's so freaking awkward. I wish that maybe I don't like the Bogsvegar. I wish maybe they had brought it back just for him. That could have been cool. Okay, god power is much like the Citadel god power, but you're targeting like a new location and just plopping a hill fort there. For this god power, I think the worst thing that could be said about it is it doesn't really feel appropriate to Ullr specifically. It just feels kind of generic, but it's a reasonably cool boundary pushing idea. What I want to focus on though is the myth unit, the Draugr. Why is this an archer? Maybe this is actually a genuine question. I have never once seen any sort of specific reference in Norse mythology to Draugr being archers. If anyone can find one, I'd love to hear one. I see no reason why this should be an archer, besides that Ullr is an archer. They wanted to have the Draugr in there because like Skyrim and shit popularized these guys. That feels like a big force. Unless one of you guys can pull out a source for me, in which case, shame on me, right? But yeah, I don't buy it. I don't like it. This thing, though, this right here, bing, 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 getting a boost after standing idle, that has so many implications. Units getting more attack, getting more like HP regeneration, getting more armor, things that incentivize you to stand your units idle, which is pretty much always a downside, is super cool. And is again one of those big playstyle shifters. I love it. Fantastic. Although maybe it would have make more sense to like reference skiing or something on this, because speed and standing idle because they're strapping on their skis. I don't know. It seemed like a missed opportunity to not reference skiing more directly. Servants of Glory is a generic name. Okay, Ring Oath. Asgardian Hill Fort costs less favor. I actually quite like this. A technology that buffs a god power specifically now that god powers are reusable. I think it's great. I like that this is an option that is now on the table. Idalir. Train units, research technologies faster, can train portable ram and classical age. Okay, that's also cool. So they're setting him up as like a rush god who is also defensive, which is like an interesting juxtaposition from a design perspective. I like it. I do still think it's weird how much he focuses on the Asgardian Bastion, just because, like I said, I find that to be rather a generic god power. I would have much preferred that to be on like Heimdallr or something like that. I think that would have been far more cool and appropriate. But whatever, at least it's a cool mechanic, even if authenticity speaking, it's not my favorite. This is actually pretty cool. The Asgardian Bastion, the foundation is placed at 50% and then built automatically. I like that a lot, actually. Obviously, it helps balance it a lot, and also self-building buildings is something we've only kind of tangentially seen on things like Kronos, but it's a cool idea. I think it's cool. I just, again, wish it were on Heimdallr. Draugr, let me see. Maybe they have something in the mythology. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think the archery stuff is a force, and they also have the dumbass horned helmet. No, thank you. Aegir. Myth units and siege weapons. This art is gorgeous. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Good on them for that awesome art. Okay. Tempest. Tempest. What does Tempest do? That's cool. A nice, like, lesser world breaker spell that will hopefully be less busted than Frost, but still fun and splashy. I like it. It's reasonably appropriate for Aegir as well. Rock Giant we'll check out in a moment, but first the technologies. Granite Maw. Oh, it's just an upgrade thing. 9 waves. Heroes and siege weapons gain more speed and damage. Most likely a reference to the 9 daughters of Aegir and Ran. who personified the waves of the sea. Yeah, okay, cool. I like the name. I like the grounding for the name. I'm not sure I love the effect. It feels a little forced, but I'm glad they're actually referencing something properly mythological. Passively heal nearby units and generate food is a great effect for TCs and Hellforts. I like the effect of this technology a lot. Typically, Odin was more of a hospitality god than Aegir was, but I guess this is fine on him. It just makes me wish major gods had more than one unique technology. Grasp of Ron, that's his wife. Dragon ships can summon krakens at nearby enemies when attacking them. Okay, that's pretty cool. Each time the dragon ship deals a total of 400 damage, the ability is activated. Nice, so it's not random. We love that. And yeah, and it references Ron using her net to drag people down to the sea. Ah, that's awesome. Yeah, I like a lot about this. This is a well-designed tech in general. Props to them for this one. I think flavor-wise, this is my favorite one, even if like the movement speed thing on Ullr made me more excited. Let's take a look at the rock giant. Look at this dude. Look at his lips. He looks goofy as hell. So how is it different from a mountain giant is my question. Is it ranged or something? So wait, special abilities have names now. Did they always have names, or am I just dumb? That's cool. Okay. Taunts nearby enemies. Bolstering its armor and forcing them to attack it, protecting allies. Great. Awesome. I like taunt effects. I've been wanting to see a taunt effect for a while. I proposed one of these on an Age of Empires 2 build back in the day, the Zap attacks. It was definitely a little wild for that game, but it's great to see it here. Cavernous Hunger. Regenerates while attacking buildings. That's kind of cool. Okay, I can see it. It just feels, again, kind of redundant with the mountain giant. Oh, I see. Hrungnir. I see what they're doing for. So they're talking about Hrungnir for the most part. I don't know. I think they could have differentiated it from the mountain giant more. And also, it just looks so derpy. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's all right. I like the taunt effect a lot. That's great. And lifesteal on buildings is cool too. All right. Lastly, Vidar. Excellent. That is great art as well. He looks so cool. I love it. Beautifully done. All right. So what do we got? Human soldiers and heroes. Yes, he should benefit heroes. And then he has, okay, Jaraxxus impression. Inferno! When invoked, Fenrir, engulfed in flames, charges through the battlefield, has an explosion at the end. I bet you anything this is going to be a crowd pleaser. I bet you anything people are going to have a blast with this thing, and it's going to be super cool. Didn't the Chinese have something called Inferno? Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, okay. I guess that's just more confirmation that the Chinese are going to change substantially. Okay, what else we got? Fafnir. Yeah, I remember seeing this. So, Fafnir is in a funky subset of myth units where it's a single dude, right? A very famous one. And it's a minor point, but I prefer when myth units like the Fenris Wolfbrood and the Jormund Elver actually reference them as being like spawn of a famous thing rather than the famous thing itself. So, I don't love Fafnir being a myth unit by himself. That's kind of awkward to me. Okay, breathes flames, smog damages nearby units. Yep. Dragony. Does he do anything cool? Oh, he grants 300 gold to the Slayer. That is very... that's an awesome mechanic. Love that. Beautifully done. Really, really good stuff. Looks quite cool, too. Yeah, I think that if it was like, Son of Fafnir or something, I'd prefer it a lot more. But I love the gold bounty. I think that's awesome, and I've proposed bounty mechanics myself. I think they're great. And a really fun way to, like, balance something. Twilight of the Gods... human soldiers get bonus against heroes. That's cool. Yeah, it's like a Ragnarok reference. Avenging Spirit. This art is kind of silly. It looks like a Hearthstone art piece to me. Okay. Each total damage dealt increases their attack damage. Oh, I see. And then they get a bigger bonker. Yo, bonker. Let me move myself out of the way. Look at this bonker. Yo, that's a big bonker for sure. Oh, this is ridiculous. It's dumb, but I actually don't have any problem with a cosmetic like that. That's actually super fun. Silent Resolve. Berserkers can slowly increase their damage when not moving. Nice! Okay. Good. Another don't move to get a buff effect. I think the name is generic, but whatever. The Ullr one was generic as well, and mechanically speaking, these are both sick. I love to see it. Berserkers gain more damage for a short time when nearby friendly units are killed. Yes! I love on-death effects, especially like nearby on-death effects. That is fantastic, and it makes a ton of sense for Vidar. This is great. This is like legitimately a fantastically designed technology. I think even the name kind of makes sense, even if it's I would have preferred something in language, right? But whatever, I'll pick my battles. Giving the God of Vengeance a buff to a specific type of human unit when a nearby friend dies is aces. Love it. The last thing I wanted to touch upon is something that this DLC has newly added, namely mythical battles. Like in AoE 2, how you have historical battles, which is, instead of a campaign, just a single scenario. And this lets you play as Regenleif. Remember her from the Age of Mythology campaign? I think that the Age of Mythology campaign being like completely apart from any actual myth is fine, right? Actually, I quite like it even, because it does help you integrate all of the cultures neatly. But for a single scenario, would it kill you to actually try to retell a real myth? Even if it was, like, adapted, right? I don't know what the point of this one is. Like, who are you fighting? Yeah, you're only fighting against Norse. Everyone is playing as Loki. You're playing as Freyr. What would stop actually replicating an actual Norse myth? Because we're only dealing with Norse anyways. Like, sure, if you want to give people more chance to play Regenleif, who is a completely fictitious character, that's, yeah, fine, whatever. But going forwards, I hope they strongly consider actually putting authentic myths into these mythical battles. You have a second one called Mythological Battle that is actually trying to do proper frickin' myths. I think that would be sick. I think it would be well received. I think it would be an easy way to add a ton of authenticity to the game. And it wouldn't hurt anyone. It would just be cool. It would just be upside. And that's the thing that I keep trying to prattle on about with authenticity. Authenticity is only upside. Or rather, the only time it can be seen as downside is when nostalgia blinds us, right? If this game had been presented full form in its original state as being like more authentically grounded in mythology, we would have grown up loving it just as much, and I would argue maybe even more so. There's always time to make the game more authentic. There's always time to allow us to show off and explore mythology in all its gorgeous depth. But that's just what I think in my crazy little opinion. So overall, I would say that this DLC gets a big thumbs up from me. I would give it a B overall. It introduces some really cool mechanics. It is on average more authentic than the base game, with only a couple of like questionable things. There's nothing here that makes me like truly roll my eyes, which is awesome. Like, that's a huge plus. I'd say like the worst things about it are the stone giant feels kind of forced and weird, but that's more of a mechanical thing. Gullinbursti is like redundant with the battle boar, and then Ullr has like a weird Heimdallr thing going on, and the Draugr is dumb. Okay, Draugr is the worst part of this. And it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen. So you know what? If the worst thing you got going for you is the Draugr, then I say you've done well. Only thing that'll fuck it up now is if they release it to the public and it costs like $15 a pop or some garbage like that. If this thing costs less than $10, I will retain my seal of approval. If it's $5, if this shit is $5, I'll bump it up to a B+. You heard it here first, folks. God, I hope it is. Please don't gouge, guys. There's no reason to gouge. We love the game. The game is being received really well. It's like the most successful RTS of the last frickin' 5 years. And I think it absolutely deserves to be that way. But that's just what I think. Now I'd like to hear what you guys think. What is your review of the DLC? Are there any pieces here I missed? Any things here that you think I am misrating or misunderstanding? And do you enjoy these kind of like off-the-cuff AOM topics where I analyze something, some new release or something in this way? Do you want me to do the patch notes for the recent patch? That's going to be real exciting. The answer is no, you don't want that. But if you have other ideas for AOM-related topics besides full builds, which I am working on currently, I would love to hear about them down in the comments below. But until then, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.